I'm sure by now many of you have heard about the controversy about Campbell's soup and the leaked recording how supposedly they're using 3D printed meats. 7 states do not allow any GMO or enhanced meats, factory-made fake meats, and Florida is one of them. Florida's Attorney General, James Uthmire, announced yesterday that his office, Consumer Protection Division, is launching a formal investigation into the company. This probe stems from a leaked audio recording of Campbell's executive allegedly claiming that the company's soups contain bioengineered meat and 3D printed chicken. These are products banned under Florida's lab-grown meat law that took effect May 1st of last year. The investigation could potentially lead to enforcement actions, including fines, product recalls, or even shutdowns of sales in Florida if violations are found. Hi everyone, I'm Mary with Mary Greeley News. Thank you very much for joining me. Please like, share, and subscribe. This current situation is separate from a wrongful termination lawsuit filed by the former Campbell's employee in Michigan, Wayne County Circuit Court, filed on November 20th, which released the recording but doesn't involve Florida or meat sourcing claims directly. The leaked recording, an audio over 75 minutes long, was secretly recorded on January of this year by Robert Garza, a former Campbell security analyst based in Monroe, Michigan. Garza filed the lawsuit claiming he was fired after complaining about racist and demeaning remarks from his boss, Vice President Martin Bailey. He alleged comments on the meat. In the rant, Bailey reportedly said things like, "Bioengineered meat? I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer." He described Campbell's products as shit for poor people, made with low-quality artificial ingredients. Bailey admitted to consuming edibles before work, which may be a factor into the company's internal review. He's been suspended from work, I guess. The recording went viral after Garza shared it with the local Detroit media, WDIV Local 4, sparking national attention just before Thanksgiving. So what was Florida's response, and what is the investigation right now? On X, formerly Twitter, Uthmire posted, "Florida law bans lab-grown meat. Our Consumer Protection Division is launching an investigation and will demand answers from Campbell's." He followed up with, "We don't do the fake lab-grown meat here in Florida. We'll enforce the law and shut down." This ties directly to Florida's ban, the first in the U.S. aimed to protecting traditional agriculture from global elite, who push for alternatives like cultured meat, as stated by Governor Ron DeSantis. Whether Campbell's soup sold in Florida contained lab-grown meat or bioengineered meat, which would violate state law, is a misdemeanor, and penalties could be up to 60 days in jail and fines. Then there's the potential consumer deception via labeling. Some cans note bioengineered food ingredients, referring to GM crops like corn, soy, but not meat. The USDA and FDA rules, through federal approvals, exist for lab-grown meat in other states. So what are the potential outcomes? If no violations are found, the investigation would close quickly. If violations are found, there could be fines, injunctions, or bans on sales in Florida, a major market for Campbell's. This also could inspire probes in other states which have bans. Those states are Alabama, which has a permanent ban, prohibits manufacturing, sales, or distribution with up to $10,000 in civil penalties. Indiana, they have a temporary ban for 2 years. That would expire on June 30th of 2027. Mississippi has a permanent ban. It is also considered a misdemeanor with fines up to $500 or 3 months in jails. That would be enforced by the Department of Agriculture. Montana also has a permanent ban. They prohibit all manufacture, sale, and distribution. Nebraska has a permanent ban, just like Montana, but they focus mostly on protecting the beef and pork industries. And then there's Texas. That's a temporary ban. It would end or expire September 7th of 2027. They have civil and criminal penalties similar to what they have in Florida, facing potential litigation similar to them. Campbell's keeps where they source their meat from a secret, claiming competition. But I did find some names of some of the companies that produce this fake meat. One is called Upside Foods. What they make is chicken breasts and nuggets. Time from when they start to make the fake meat takes about 3 weeks. Then the other company is called Good Meat. They make chicken strips. That takes about 14 to 21 days from start to finish. Another company is called Believer Meats. They make chicken. Whole cuts are supposedly coming soon. That takes 3 to 4 weeks. Aleph Farms. They make fake ribeye steaks. That takes 4 to 6 weeks to produce. The last company that I have is Mosa Meat. They make beef patties and plan to make steaks. That takes about 3 weeks to produce. Lab-grown meat is grown from cells like in a brewery in big tanks. The process is now industrialized, and the FDA and USDA approved it here in the United States, with products already on menus in San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Singapore, and Israel. Now, Campbell says that the chicken used in 70% of their products would be used for soups, such as chicken noodle. The primary source, they say, is long trusted U.S. suppliers, specific names not publicly disclosed for competitive reasons. Campbell's claims to partner with a network of audited U.S. farmers and processors. Ingredients are traced from farm to factory, they say, with in-person USDA inspections during production. They require suppliers to follow procedures preventing animal mistreatment. For poultry, this includes better living conditions, broader goals, aligned with groups like Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil. Bioengineered is in a lot of our foods, and it seems like it's getting to be more and more. The other night, I like Popeyes. I eat banquet Popeyes. I don't know if they have bioengineered chicken or not, but I couldn't eat it. It was like little squares of cardboard. Yeah, I spit it out and I gave it to the dogs. This fake chicken is grown in huge stainless steel tubs, anywhere from 2,000 to 50,000 liters each. I found a scientific paper, if you want to go to this link, which is provided down below. It talks about three-dimensional scaffold materials and fabrication for cultural meat applications. It highlights the need for 3D agricultural cell culture and various types of scaffolds. Classification according to scaffold production methods in many ways. Natural materials for 3D scaffolds used in agricultural cell culture. Development of cultured meat with texture and flavor similar to edible meat. And the need to develop scaffolds for industrial mass cultural meats. This paper is from 2024. They have an image here that you can enlarge. It talks about the different animals and the cultural meat and how to make it where it actually looks and tastes like real meats. Let me bring this down a little bit for you. They actually have molds to make fake steaks now. The WHO says it's safe to eat. Here in this document, it says, according to a report by the United Nations, the population is expected to be about 9.5 billion in 2050. And a plan to solve this problem is needed because twice as much protein food must be produced based on this population. That was a UN report from 2015. However, focusing on only increased numbers of livestock to solve this problem can cause problems because of mass production of crops used as feed by livestock and the increased amount of greenhouse gases such as CO2 emitted by livestock can cause serious environmental problems. In 2011, Modern Meadow started with a 3D printer for culture meat, but switched to cultural leather. Since the first hamburger patty made from culture meat was introduced by Mark Moss Meats in the Netherlands in 2013. Memphis Meats established a cultural meat company in 2016. The company developed cultural meat such as meatballs, chicken, and duck meat. Afterwards, the interest of various companies in the technology development of cultural meat has increased dramatically. In 2020, the Singapore Food Agency approved the sale of cultural chicken produced by the American company Eat Just Incorporated and began selling cultured chicken breasts for the first time in Singapore. According to the Good Food Institute's 2022 Industry Status Report, 156 cultural meat companies have been established worldwide. Can you imagine how many there are now? I tried looking up the number of companies, but they're not being tracked. There's probably at least 160 companies that make this fake meats. The U.S. is leading in these companies that make fake meat. There's at least 43 here in the United States, followed by Israel, which has 17, and the UK has 17, and Singapore has 12. The industry to make these fake meats did grow steadily but slowed after 2022 due to funding challenges, regulatory hurdles, and market maturation, or, the cost. They're also working on making fake seafood, but that's been more challenging in the development. Investments in this type of work peaked in 2022 with about $900 billion being invested before the drop. Only 7 companies have had regulatory approval for commercial sale as of November of this year. A couple of them are Upside Foods, Good Meat, and Aleph Farms. Now, the CDC and the WHO say that lab-grown meat is often safer because no antibiotics are needed in most of the processes to make this 3D meat. There's also the lower risk of bird flu, swine flu, and COVID-like risks, and different parasites that might be in pork and some beef. But there's remaining open questions, such as very long-term multi-generational human data doesn't even exist yet. But the same is true for many conventional foods introduced in the last 50 years, such as high oleic soybean oil, and some companies still use fetal bovine serum, but the companies that the CDC, I believe, approved, or the FDA has approved, do not use fetal bovine serum. Then, if they decide to scale up to millions of tons of this fake meat, it could introduce a new supply chain risk, such as contamination of growth media. But those are also the same risks that are in the pharmaceutical manufacturing, such as infant formula or vaccine. So, what are your thoughts? What do you think about this Frankenstein meats? I've often talked about being a prepper, how canned foods, basically, they don't have an expiration date. And if you got some of these older cans that are not bioengineered, yeah, they're going to probably be highly regarded, and people are going to be, seeking them even more. The best by date is often misleading unless the can is showing signs of swelling or rusting, things like that. It's dented. Yeah, it's still safe to eat. So what are your thoughts about this? Please put your comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. We're going to have to watch Florida. It's going to be interesting to see what Florida says about Campbell's. Them, I would trust what their outcome would be. At least I hope so. I'll thank you again. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you later. God bless you.